friends, welcome back. Welcome to episode 6 of What's the Plan? Personal growth coaching for busy moms. My name is Sharon and I am a busy mom and I am so excited that you're here. So in the last episode, we talked about a quarterly reflection system that I use in my map book. And it prompted a lot of questions in my DMs about this idea of systems. While I do keep and track goals, I am very much a pro systems person, and I would almost argue that I prefer systems over goals, and I thought we could dig into that a little bit deeper and answer some of your questions about that today. So hang on as we get started with a conversation about systems versus goals. What is better? I wanted to start off by just reminding you about the personal growth triangle that we talked about back in episode 3 about 3 hacks for starting your personal growth journey. That triangle represents kind of like the different tiers of growth, of personal growth. And I would argue that systems really runs the gamut of all 3 of those levels. You can find systems at different levels at varying complexities, which is why the triangle on today's episode has it covering all 3. I really do believe that in the base of your triangle, you're establishing systems, and then as you grow, you are redefining and customizing those systems to work for you so that by the time you're in that level 3, you are just like rocking your systems that work for you and for your life and what you need. So I just wanted to kind of give you that caveat before we dive in today. So what is a system? I'm so glad you asked. I'm going to actually rely on the experts here because I learned about systems through 2 different personal growth gurus. The first is one of my faves, John Maxwell, who wrote the 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. And in this book, he defined systems as a process for predictably achieving a goal based on specific, orderly, repeatable principles and practices. In John Maxwell's words, he says, systems are deliberate, intentional, and practical. And that quote I pulled from page 109, again, of this book. So, that was a huge definition. It's so good, but there's a lot to unpack there. So basically, John Maxwell is stating that a system is what actually gets you to your goal. So let's say that your goal is to read 50 books this year. That's kind of your personal growth. You want to read more, you want to learn about things that you're not familiar with, you want to develop some of your interests, so you want to read 50 books. Cool. That's your goal. Your system is how you get there. What actions are you going to complete to get to your goal of reading 50 books? Does that make sense? So let's think about that. Your system is really for reading. So you have to take a step back and think about the bigger picture. So your system for reading, for example, I'm just leaning on my system for reading, is maybe, 50 books, that's about a book a week, which if you're, a medium speed reader, seems doable. But again, you'd have to think about yourself. So maybe an audiobook makes more sense. Maybe like a shorter book makes more sense. Just kind of like keeping those things in mind. Or maybe when you go on vacation, you read 3 books and you'll get ahead or whatever. Just kind of having an idea of whether that's reasonable for you. But once you decide if it's reasonable for you, maybe you decide, okay, at the beginning of every month, I'm going to go onto the New York Times bestseller list. I'm going to pick out 5 of the books that most interest me, and I'm either going to order them on Amazon or request them interlibrary loan from my library, and that's how I'm going to make sure that I have the books for the month. Maybe I'm going to spend 15 minutes going through my Audible subscription and updating which audiobooks that I want to listen to that month, and you're going to do that the first of every month. That way you know that you have reading material, and then you're going to spend the 30 minutes before you go to bed every night reading your book. Boom. System. Maybe you're going to track your reading using Goodreads. That's an app that I use. Website too. Does that make it an app? I don't know. But it tracks. You can set a challenge. That's what I do. I love like seeing like the little bar graph, and it tells me how far off I am if I get off, and I really like it. I also like it keeps a running list of books that you've read with their covers. I'm very visual too, so it helps me like to go back and see, like sometimes I won't remember if I've read a book, but when I see the cover, I'm like, oh, right, yeah, I did. So I definitely recommend Goodreads. But that's, again, part of your system. So your system is accountability, it's how you're going to access the materials, it's when and where you're going to implement your system. And if you do those things reliably, predictably, systematically, then you will achieve your goal. Whew. So another guru, another personal growth guru who talks a lot about systems is James Clear, and he wrote a book called Atomic Habits, which I highly recommend. And in his book, he talks about the difference between systems and goals. He points out that goals are about achievable results. So it's a yes or it's a no. Like you can check it off if it happened. On December 31st, you will ask, did I read 50 books? The answer is either yes or no. A system, on the other hand, he clarifies, is the avenue, how you're going to actually get to your goal. So here's the question. If you get to December 31st and you read 49 books, you technically did not meet your goal, right? You technically failed. That's so awful. That's not the personal growth. That's not what we're trying to do as we're trying to grow. You read 49 books. We need to celebrate that, mama. So you want a system. You developed a reading system which helped you read 49 books, and that's the prize, right? Like that's so much better than reading 50 books one year and then never reading another book again because you changed your goal. So James Clear talks about how the systems are the process that leads to the results. And this quote that he said really stuck with me. See how you feel about this. He said, "You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems." Ooh. So when you think about that in terms of like that 50 book goal, so the 50 book goal, maybe it's like an inspiration, it's kind of motivating you, but when everything kind of falls apart, your reading system is going to be what keeps those actions happening and that progress happening. So it really is about the system, not about the goal. All that being said, do I set goals? Yes. But do I create systems to help me get to that goal? Also yes. And that's the key. Friends, I have systems for everything. And again, on my triangle, don't compare my middle to your beginning if that's in fact where you are. But on my personal growth triangle, I am in the level 3. I've been studying personal growth for many years now. And I have sort of gotten myself to the point where I understand what systems I need, and I have kind of customized them to meet my needs. So I was going to share a few different systems with you that I utilize. You saw one of them again in the previous episode with my quarterly reflection. That's one of my systems for reflection. I build that in. My math book is another huge system that I have. But what's cool again about systems, and we talked about this at the beginning, is they really fall throughout the entire triangle. So my math book started off in the basics as just like a notebook where I kept all the things. It wasn't necessarily organized. It was just like a date and my to-do list. Date, to-do list, date, to-do list. Like that was it in the beginning. And then as I was like, oh, I would love to have a monthly to-do list. Boom, added that in. A few months later, oh, I wish I had book notes here. Boom, added that in. So you're really just kind of like adding these different layers in as you grow, as you progress on your personal growth journey, which is cool. So other systems that I use a marriage check-in system with my husband. We do that monthly. I'll talk about that more in a future episode. I have a system for my morning routine. I have a system for my evening routine. I have a system for working out every day, for budgeting, and for cleaning. So, and that's just honestly, I made a list once and in one of my map books, I could find it, of all my systems, and I think I have like 20 or 30 different systems that I use both personally and in my business to make sure nothing falls through the cracks, to be proactive rather than reactive. And again, I'll share more about this over on the podcast if you want to go over and check that out. Today I'll be talking about how to create your own system from start to finish over on the podcast. So if you're interested in checking that out, you can find it at What's the Plan? Personal Growth for Busy Moms. You can search that on Spotify or on iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcasts. We'll be diving into that a little more in depth today. And if you are curious to follow along in between episodes, you can find me over on Instagram at Growth Coach for Busy Moms. On my Instagram stories this week, it's going to be all about the behind the scenes of 2 of my systems. I won't tell you which ones, so you can go check it out. I'd love to see you over there. And as usual, if you want to reach out, feel free to shoot me a DM or comment below. I love to know that you're out there, know that you're listening, and I'm super curious what systems you're using in your life or what systems you would like to start using. So maybe we could start to troubleshoot some of those together. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will see you in the next week's episode, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.